I pulled up to the driveway and turned off the car once I was parked. No sooner had I done so than was my body racked with a chill akin to a frigid gale blowing in from outside. Though it wasn't snowing, it sure was freezing. Thus I donned my coat and went out. The lights in the living room were on, which meant she was home. I had a warm house to look forward to. Why would you have to italicize she like that? Usually when you like italicize, it's really like, because they're here. Like, it, I don't know. I usually associate with like a negative connotation. Clearly, he's just talking about his sister, and then there's a positive thing afterwards, like, she's home. Which means I had a warm house to look forward to. It's like, you could have just said, which meant she was home. There didn't need to be any heavy emphasis on she, because, like, we, the reader, we know who she is. Like, we know what she is to be expected within that house. Like, usually an italicized means something it's like you wouldn't quite expect. Something slightly unexpected. Or if it is expected, it's something like with a negative connotation. It's like, oh, because they're here. But it's like, it's just, oh, it means Yukari's home. Enlivened, I sauntered over to the front door. My sister Yukari was there to greet me.
Oh, tadaima. Banmeshi wa?
Took off my coat, relieved that I did indeed have a toasty room waiting for me. Yum. So nothing but root vegetables, huh? Not that I complain, though. I doubt she'd be all too pleased if I voiced my thoughts, after all.
いや、そんなことはないぞ。
Crap. I really need to stop wearing my heart on my sleeve.
ごちそうさん。
I set my chopsticks down. Yukari nodded.
そうや、飯を食いに来なかったな。
Oski had been frequently joining in on our dinners the last few weeks, yet there wasn't any hide or hair of him.
仕事を一つ任せているからな。
If anything, that would be good for both of us. I mean, not explicitly, no.
当たり前だろ。今のところそんな無茶な仕事はないよ。
I mean, that you know of. I'm sure you believe that right now, but like, I don't know. I tend to know how your job's going, Eiji.
なんだ。心配してるのか？
I smirked teasingly.
兄さんの管理責任になるんですよ。
Oh, so that's her angle.
まあ、無茶なことは俺以外やらないさ。
I read that. I read that wrong. He's like, he won't be handling any dangerous jobs we get. Just me. Like, I read that as if, like, he won't be handling the dangerous jobs. Nah, he'll just be handling me. I'm the dangerous job he's gonna be handling. Whoa, Reiji, what? But after reading it a couple more times, I realized, oh, he's trying to imply that Reiji is the one taking dangerous jobs. Yeah, no, that's definitely not going to alleviate Yukari's worries.
しばらくは大丈夫だから安心しろよ。
Man, if only you could keep that promise, huh? I sincerely doubt it would be getting into fights to the death, at the very least. Oh, we're totally going to get into a fight to the death then. Yukari nodded, picked up the dishes, and rose to her feet.
あ、頼むわ。
Yukari disappeared into the kitchen. Checked the morning paper while waiting for her to return. There was very little coverage of the murder, though it was possible they'd have a follow-up report tomorrow. Or maybe there just wouldn't be one at all. We still knew too little, after all. It didn't seem like the police would be publicizing any theories about the culprit either. Those sorts of radical speculations would be left for the attention-ravenous tabloids to formulate. Yukari emerged from the kitchen and served me a cup of tea.
ありがとな。
I wasted no time taking a sip of the steaming hot beverage.
そういや、ゆかり、絵の展覧会で入選したんだってな。
Yeah,
just about every other one doesn't mean every other one, alright? That means there's some people who didn't get ribbons. So you fucking feel proud of your goddamn ribbon, girl. Yukari smiled awkwardly.
参加賞というわけではないと思いますが、そう珍しいことではありません。
Fucking was. Yes, it fucking was. May not have been first place, but you got something, goddammit.
そういうもんなのか？
Genuinely didn't know. Art wasn't my forte.
そういうものなんです。
Yukari chuckled. Oh no, Lassier Dog Ne Esperanza. What's going on? What's going down? Ah, cart. Okay. I was like, burlap sack. That does not sound like a burlap sack. Truck. That doesn't sound like a truck either. Cart. Okay, okay. A burlap sack was unloaded from the truck bed and put into a cart. Its contents didn't stir. But though her hands had been bound and her mouth gagged, she shouldn't have died yet. What next? I'd rather not leave any scratches. I don't even know if I can fix that first cut I gave her. Whatever the case, preparations had to be made first. The cart was hauled into a bathroom, the sack subsequently lowered into the bathtub. Moments later, it was opened. Careful inspection of the contents following. Looks like she's still unconscious. Good. The sooner I get this over with, the better. A pair of pruning shears with long handles were seized from nearby. They're pointed at her bound arms. Is it really true that the wrists will work best? It would probably take less time and effort if the incision was made higher, but that would likely be difficult to achieve with these shears. In any case, there's no time to think. This had to be taken care of before she woke up. Thus, the blades were quickly set around her wrists, then squeezed toward each other with a massive rush of force. The sack rocked like crazy. Crimson flood began staining its bottom as it did. The bathtub faucet was twisted, unleashing a steady stream of water. Next, the sack was closed up again, just to be safe before any further steps were taken. The bathtub grew redder and redder by the moment. Though the water wasn't filling the tub on account of the drain remaining unsealed, blood-stained droplets still splashed about, staining the floor and walls. I'll have to clean those up later. Eventually, the sack stopped moving. However, it had also grown stiff from all the water it had absorbed, making it difficult to reopen. Regardless, a pair of hands pried it open. Wet hair stuck to the inside of the bag like moss. That might be a little too long. Perhaps I should cut it. The sack was flipped over, releasing its contents. First to emerge were two small lumps that landed in the bathtub. They were her severed hands. Both of them had been amputated at just about the same spot. They slid out the body proper. A thought sparked after the tear-stricken face biting into the gag came into sight. They don't look all that much alike, do they? Guess I'll just have to hide that with makeup. But first, her blood had to be drained, followed by further modification. Fortunately, that wouldn't take all that long, seeing as the necessary tools were already present. Okay. So, Sei was like the test subject, right? She was the first one, and she was a volunteer, right? She volunteered for it, and now that this person knows that they can do it, they're going to go through and make more of them. Is that what I'm getting out of this? I have to do it. I have to make it. Well, yeah, at this point you kind of have to. You cut off someone's hands, let them bleed to death in your bathtub, and then you just go, you know what, actually, I kind of changed my mind. Like, nah, you're in too deep now, bud. You might as well just fucking make the art. Might as well go all out with it. February 20th. What do we got in store, baby? Who was it? Sunny morning was there to greet me when I awoke.
では行ってまいります。あ、これ今日の朝
Here's the
刊
morning
です。
paper. Hope you read about the murder. Yukari, all decked out in her school uniform, handed me a newspaper.
ああ、行ってらっしゃい。
I unfolded the paper after seeing Yukari off. There was no follow-up report on the murder, just as I suspected. Or so I thought, but then I noticed a small blurb in the local news page about how the body had been ID'd. Seemed they weren't releasing any more information than necessary.
警察は慎重に捜査を続けている。
Carefully indeed. And then the phone rings? Still hadn't even ruled out that this could have been a suicide, and then the phone rings? When does the phone ring? Parked my car outside the agency. Though the latter half of February was already in full swing, it was still cold as Citus in the mornings. In fact, it was so bad that the car wouldn't start up unless I fiddled hard with the choke valve. I hate it when I have to fiddle hard with my choke valve in the morning. Man, what a kill not to have to do that anymore. Can't spring get here any faster.
おはようございます、時坂さん。
お、
What's up, Muppet?
何してるんだ？
Oski was currently engaged in a staring contest with a journal.
日記を書こうとしてるんですよ。
日記？なんでまたそんなことを？
病院でそう言われたんです。 治療の一環だそうですよ。
Never knew those things could help treat mental issues. I should start keeping one myself. And again, I'd probably just turn to another notebook for my investigations. Still, it's not like the kind of treatment that would take a while. Well, who's to say when it starts showing any actual results?
で書いてるわけ。
Check Masuki's journal. February 19th. Went to hospital. Talked to Michiru.
ちょっと見ないでくださいよ。
Masuki closed his journal.
そんなのでいいのか。
You barely wrote shit, though.
書くことが大事だそうですから。
Well, if he says so. Still, you're into Michiru, huh? The fact that they'd be seeing a lot more of each other now that he was going back to their therapy was obvious. However, only a handful of people knew about their true relationship. Not even the man himself had been told as of yet. Okay, so he hasn't been told yet. Alright. Yeah, ironically enough, they were drawn together in spite of that. Must have been because she'd been fond of him for a while now.
どうかしましたか？
いや、なんでもねえよ。
It wasn't my place to tell him at any rate.
そんなことよりも、お前は早くここを出て部屋。
分かってますよ。金が貯まれば引っ越すつもり。
Masuki suddenly stopped short and looked up at me. What, you think it's my fault? Again, I was the one not paying him enough to move, so yeah, it kind of was.
ああ、それはそれとしてだ。捜査の方はどうなってる？
黒や直りのことですよね。それはまだ何も見つかってはいません。
Masuki shook his head. Didn't blame him, of course. Even the police hadn't had luck finding the man despite all their officers on the job. Bastard must have been laying real low, that much was sure.
捜査の基本は足だからな。すり減らした靴底の分だけ進展があるものさ。
言いたいことはわかりますが。
駅前やなんかを回ってみろ。大抵警官が警備しているだろうが、お前には黒や直りを直接見知っているという強みがあるからな。
Now, that could also be turned into a weakness.
時坂さんは回らないんですか？
俺はお前らの食いぶちを稼いでるんだよ。
I would have loved nothing more than to simply abandon everything and devote myself fully to the search, but I literally couldn't afford to do that.
しばらくの間そっちはお前に任せる。
わかりました。
Thus, this was the way things had to be for now. Yukari headed for the grocery store near Kichijoji Station after school to pick up some dinner. There, she noticed a familiar face pass by just as she was comparing radishes. Chie?
あら
Yep,
ちえちゃん
called it.
ゆかりちゃん
She was Chie Kubota, a girl who had been practically inseparable from Yukari up until the latter enrolled in Oba Girls Academy. Not only did the pair love art, but Chie had even won a grand prize at the art exhibit they'd both recently taken part in. However, she now looked as though she'd been told she was fated to die tomorrow, far cry from when Yukari saw her last.
どうかなさったんですか？残念なこと。
Chie hung her head, going still as a statue. Yukari wasn't sure she should press any further, considering just how devastated her old friend looked. She couldn't just ignore her
ちょっ
either.
と待っていてくださいね。
Yukari randomly picked out some radishes, shallots, and potatoes before buying them and returning to where she left
ち
Chie.
えちゃん、月世界で少しお話ししませんか？
Fortunately, Chie hadn't budged so much as an inch since Yukari asked her to stay put. Chie feebly nodded. Yukari brought Chie over to Moonworld. The place in question was a cafe run by Kyoko Husky, whom Yukari had known all her life.
あら、いらっしゃい。
And as always, she was there to greet them with a smile.
こんにちは。ホットミルクとカフェオレをお願いします。
Yukari brought Chie over to the table at the other end of the cafe after placing their orders. However, Chie didn't say a word even after they were. Oh my god. However, Chie didn't say a word even after they were seated.
お待たせしました。
Kyoko came over with their drinks in no time
あ
flat.
りがとうございます。
Yukari took the cups and set the hot milk before Chie.
ありがとう。
Chie cradled the cup in her hands.
何があったのですか？
Yukari steeled herself and addressed the elephant in the room.
それが
Yeah,
先生が
yep, Say was your tutor. I knew it. I fucking called it. I still suspect you, though. Don't think because you're walking around acting all depressed and mopey, I don't suspect you. Of course, that they'd expect you to act sad and mopey. It'd be suspicious if you weren't acting sad and mopey. I see you. I see you. Now that her ID has been like actually revealed to the public, now you gotta act sad mopey. Oh, I found out that my tutor died. Yukari gasped.
前にお話しした絵の先生なのです。特選の報告をしようと思いましたら、そう聞かされたのです。
Jay's story came together piece by piece. Yukari was rendered speechless in its aftermath. She knew painfully well how much it hurt to lose a loved one. Several times over, in fact. How all the sympathy and consolations of the world could never truly heal that sorrow. No, all you could do was let time take care of the wounds.
親戚もいないようで、お葬式もどうなるかわからないそうなのです。
Oh no, don't tell me. Yukari knew what that signified thanks to her brother's line of work. However, she didn't ask. She couldn't bring herself to.
せめて報告くらいはさせてほしかったのです。
出られない？
ゆかりちゃんにはまだお話ししていなかったのです。
Much like she did?
絵の勉強のために。
Though that should have been a cause for celebration, Yukari found herself at a loss for words. She couldn't very well congratulate Chie after the girl had revealed her mentor was dead.
留学を勧めてくれたのも先生だったのです。
Chie hung her head. Her hands trembled on the table. Yukari gently laid her own hands atop them in response.
ありがとうございます。
Yeah, I still haven't cleared you of suspicion. Tears rained onto the back of Yukari's hands. For all I know, you're a skilled actor. I haven't cleared you just yet. My mind is still like, there's something up with this girl. Masuki left the agency. Winter sun was beginning to set. He planned to take Koreiji's advice about detectives investigating with their feet to heart by spending the evening prowling around. Where should I go this time? Hospital. We're going right back to the fucking hospital. Listen, either I run into Hot Therapist, Michiru, or Koharu, and all three of them are a plus, alright? Plus, we were told stations are a bad idea. Also, I just know it's kind of in the core of this game to, like, once you lock into a location, you lock into that location. That's just kind of how these things typically go. You only deviate when you have no choice but to deviate. Masuki got off the train at Nakano Station and took a stroll over to Kichiki Hospital. Didn't have any sessions scheduled today. However, there was someone here who could prove helpful in tracking down Naori Kuroya. The hospital proper was practically deserted now that it was evening. Masuki sauntered over to a nurse at the reception desk, visibly bored out of her mind.
すみません。朽木院長はおられますか？
はい、院長室へどうぞ。
Masuki nodded, stepped away from the desk, and made his way through the hallways. Eventually, he reached and gingerly knocked on a door labeled Director's Office.
どうも、まさきです。
The door creaked open shortly after Masuki dropped his name.
どうかしましたか？
ちょっとお話がありまして。
どうぞ中へ。
Fumiya swung the door open and beckoned Masuki inside. The director's office didn't look all that different from the other offices here as far as Masuki could tell. Oh, it's crazy.
どうぞおかけください。
Masuki parked himself on a sofa and looked Fumiya over. The man appeared positively exhausted. Yeah, he sounds it. I was gonna point out, like, dude sounds like he's fucking going through it. Though seemingly trying not to let it show, he must have been taking the news of his niece's death, adopted or not, particularly hard.
何かありましたか？
That is the thing, is like Fumiya always seemed to like actually care somewhat. Chizuru, we kind of felt from like the beginning she really didn't. But Fumiya, whether or not I guess he didn't really show that love to Toko all that well, because Toko still never really felt that cared about, but like, it seems like Fumiya actually gave a shit, other than compared to Chizuru not giving a shit. Fumiya took a seat on the sofa opposite Masuki's.
黒谷直りのことでお聞きしたいことがありまして。
直りさんですか。あなたの方がお詳しいのではありませんか。
Fumiya cocked his head.
いえ、東京で彼が身を寄せられるような場所がないかと思ったんですが。
彼が東京に出てきてから僕は数度も会っていませんからね。ひながみ製薬の方を当たった方がよろしいのではありませんか。
Fumiya offered the suggestion after thinking it over a little. But though it was his family's company, there was no longer anyone there Masuki could talk to. Not the blessed congregation, but he didn't even have any close acquaintances there either, save one. However, he probably had better luck wringing water from a stone than getting anything out of her. True.
僕から助言できるようなことはあまりありませんね。ただ、赤ん坊を連れて行ったのでしたら、病院を渡ってもいいかもしれません。
病院
It would indeed probably be difficult for a man to raise a baby entirely by himself. However, Naori was a doctor. Right. Somehow that detail also slipped my mind. I was like, right, yeah, no. If a guy runs away with a baby, he's gonna need to check up on it, unless he himself is a medical professional who can do their own fucking checkups on it. As such, Masuki suspected he could handle just about everything on his own.
すみませんお仕事の邪魔をしてしまいまして
Masuki rose to his feet.
いえ、構いませんよ。
Masuki left the office after Humias flashed him a genial smile. Okay. That's fine. I slouched on the living room sofa, perusing a book after taking a bath. There wasn't anything special about it, it's just a run-of-the-mill novel. It was only recently that I'd finally regained enough peace of mind to start reading again. Or maybe I was only reading to project the illusion I'd regained stability. After all, immersing myself in a book allowed me to repel all intrusive thoughts. Though, considering my current train of thought, it was difficult to say that was actually working.
兄さん、お茶をお飲みになりますか？
Yukari addressed me after finishing her bath.
ああ、もらおうかな。
Yukari nodded and poured me a cup.
はい、どう？
Put down my book, took the teacup from her.
ありがとう。
Blew on the piping hot tea as I took a sip.
どうした？
Yukari was fidgeting like she was dying to say something, right, because now she knows about the death, and she's pretty sure Reiji's involved, as a detective.
いいえ。暑かったですか？
Girl, speak your mind. Speak your mind, girl.
まあ、このくらいがちょうどいいさ。
However, I pretended I hadn't noticed, given she'd clearly lost her nerve. What was that all about? I opened the book and feigned reading while keeping a close eye on Yukari. Like me, she was drinking tea while flipping through some sort of magazine. It's probably a pictorial, judging from the pictures of art littering it. She skimmed through the pages like that brief lapse had never happened. Damn, we really are siblings in the worst possible way, huh? We both kept everything bottled up no matter how much it was killing us. Likewise, we both deny that something was bothering us. We just keep to ourselves, not wanting to worry the other. Best thing to do at times like these
ゆかり、おかわりもらえるか？
はい。
was to just feign ignorance and maintain our facade of normality. February 21st. Okay. So we haven't found the new art piece yet? I ate breakfast in the living room while reading a newspaper after Yukari had left for school. Telephone? Man, the windows are all fogged up. Maybe it's snowing out there. Telephone? Telephone. Oof. Bad feeling struck me in the gut as I was reaching for the screeching phone. Yeah, no, when your phone rings, it's never a good thing, Reiji. Very rarely. Regardless, I had to pick up.
もしもし。
警視庁の八木沼です。先輩、続きましたよ。
続き？おい、まさか。
詳しくは後ほど。現場は三鷹の外れ、調布飛行場の近くです。
Chofu Airfield. We know that the original gallery that Sei worked at was in Chofu. Damn it. I hate when my gut's right.
わかった。
I quickly got dressed, threw on a coat, and grabbed my car keys. Though I'd considered the train for a moment, and just as quickly realized driving would be faster. So it happened again, huh? Because that means we really are dealing with a series of illusion murders. I drove west down Higami Street through fields and snow, eventually reaching the north end of Chofu Airfield. There I found squad cars surrounding a grove. One end of what appeared to be a giant concrete pipe was sticking up above ground like the gaping maw of a predator.
掩体壕か。
More specifically, it was a hangar that had been built during the war to protect fighter jets from air raids. Piles of timber and bags of cement now towered within, suggesting it was currently being used for storage. And stationed right outside the bunker was something that had been set atop a red pedestal situated on level ground. At first I thought I was looking at a statue. But see, this one's different. This one's different. Though she must have been alive up until recently, you never guessed it just by looking at her. Because the big wing's on a different side now. Came off less as a corpse and more as a grand sculpture from the era of ancient Greece. Because with Sei, the big wing was on the right side. This one's on the left. That was my initial impression of her. It's like slightly different. What I saw was indeed an angel. There's no doubt this has been the work of the same person. That said, there wasn't a guarantee this hadn't been perpetrated by a group either.
おや、はようますな。
Quickly noticed Natsume staring up at the angel.
どうも。ヤギ沼は？
本店からこちらに向かってるとことちゃいますか？
Perhaps she was right. Whatever the case, I couldn't start my investigation without his presence.
夏目さん、今のところ分かっていることはありますか？
せやね。前のと同じだと思いますが。
Yeah, it's mirrored.
ちょこちょこ違ってるとこがありま
Well,
す。
no, it's not mirrored. It is posed slightly different. The legs are extended on the same side. But yeah, it's the torso that's mirrored. The legs are still extended out to the left. Like my right, but to the body's left. But this time, instead of the body being bent towards the right, with the big wing coming out of the left side, the body's bent towards the left with the big wing coming out of the right side.
違うところですか？
I looked up at the angel corpse. It was only natural there'd be differences between separate victims, but I couldn't tell without checking her out for myself.
調べましょうか。
Donned a pair of white gloves and offered a silent prayer for the victim.
そうですな。遅刻するような子は知りまへん。
Screw that guy.
勝手に進めないでもらえますか？僕の許可なしでできるはずもないでしょうに。
Speak of the devil.
遅かったな。
付近の所轄を回ってましたから。不審者の逃走を防ぐため、要所で検問を張らせています。
飛行機で逃げられやしまへんの？
That's my point into the airfield.
調布飛行場はまだ米軍の管轄ですからね。最近一部が使えるようになったとはいえ、日本の航空機は来ませんよ。
Agnum was slit on his own gloves and bowed respectfully to the victim.
さて、始めましょうか。
First things first, wing.
翼。
Hoisted my gaze upon the trademark of these serial killings. Two of them were affixed to her back, one large and magnificent, the other tiny and pitiable. They both jutted out of the clay bases that had been stuck to her. Furthermore, every single feather was real, just like last time. No, actually, the big wing was on the right side, but the body is in a different position. Because I do remember the big wing coming out on the right side with Sei. That is true. That I'm pretty sure the big wing was on the same side, but the body is definitely in a different position.
前のに比べますと、背中の削ってる範囲が狭くなってますな。
完全にこれは装飾ですよね。殺人には全く関係のない。
Yeah.
そうでしょうな。こうするために殺したいうことも考えられますけど。
Yes.
犯人は芸術家。そんな事件が昔ありましたね。
True. Aginuma shook his head. I was talking about the girl in shell case for a second there, but apparently I've been on the wrong track. Nope. Because that's right, the one guy had his own atelier, right? He was the actor guy. Yeah. Now, if I had to guess, he was most likely alluding to the Senri case he'd been on 6 years ago.
元にしているものがあるのならば、どれも同じだ。犯人が違う以上、動機はいろいろあるだろうが。
動機。そうですね。その天罰という絵から犯人が何を感じ取り、こんな死体を作ったのか。
Yeah, that's the thing. That's one thing that's eluding me as well is like the motive for doing it. Like I have guesses to who might have done it, and like their reasonings for doing it. Well, not reasonings because that's motived up. It's like if it was Chie, right, who did the first one because her mentor asked her to, what was the motive for the mentor asking her to? What was the motive then for Chie agreeing to it? Because a normal person would hear like their mentor saying, hey, kill me and dress my body up like this. And be like, how about no? So I can kind of connect the dots as to why someone might be doing it, but also not the full motive as to why. Like, she did it because her mentor told her to do it, but also what's her motive for following her mentor's word to that degree, right? So the motive's the one thing that really escapes me right now. Though that is the point of a mystery. Looks like a tiny wing. Okay, face. Study the victim's face.
若いな。
I swear to God, if it's another Oba Girls Academy student, I'm gonna lose my mind. It was hard to tell for sure with all the powder and makeup. She didn't look any older than 20.
最初の被害者とは年齢が離れている気もしますね。
年が狙われた動機とはちゃうんでしょうな。
Let's me examine the victim's
こ
head.
の辺に傷がありますな。結構強い力で殴られたんちゃいますやろか。
Let's me point to a spot near the whorl of hair on the back of the victim's head.
まっすぐへこんでますから、棒みたいので殴られたんでしょうな。気絶もしたでしょうし、これが直接の死因の可能性だってありますな。
Nope.
前の時は外傷がありませんでしたね。
Odd. Why'd the killer change their MO? Because the first one was just the test. Because the first one agreed to it. Because the first one knew the plan and agreed to it. She said she wanted to see this vision come to life. The first one, she wanted it to happen. And now that the killer can see that they can do it, they got a methodology now, right? They know the routine, and the more they do it, the more efficient they're gonna get with it. The quicker they're gonna be able to do it, right? So now it's just finding the right victims. Now it's not, doing it because they want to. It's finding the right victim. Kind of similar to what Shinji did with, the other students, the other Toko, Tsuriko. It was just really whoever kind of fit the bill. And even like with Tsuriko, right? She didn't fit the bill. He fucking put a wig on her because he was just that desperate for it, but Let me look at your arm stumps again, because God forbid I skip that. All but the upper portions of her arms have been severed, much like the last victim. Unless I made a sound after studying the
何
stumps.
かありましたか。
それがな、断面が前のと違うんよ。
どう違うのですか？
前のはヤスリで削ったような処理がされてましたやろ。今度のはなんというか、骨が押しつぶされたように切れとるんよ。
押しつぶされた。
Examined the cut surfaces, but didn't notice any differences from the previous
パッ
victims.
と見わからんようにしてますけどな。
Inspecting the section outs may indicate revealed that there were indeed fissures along the bone.
詳しく見んと何とも言えまへんけど、おそらくおっきなハサミみたいなので切ったんちゃいますやろか。
ノコギリで切断するより効率が良さそうですね。
Agnuma nodded.
夏目さん、生活反応はどうですか。
どうでしょうな。切断面が加工されてますし、何とも言えまへん。まあ、こうしたのは亡くなった後でしょうけど。
It sounded like we could rule out the possibility she'd been dismembered alive then. Okay. We just check the face again. Okay, check the body. Body was seated atop a stand covered in red cloth, just like in Exile of
前
Paradise.
の布と同じような手触りですな。
この布の入手経路などは分かりませんか。
どうなんです？
前園聖が同じような生地を購入していたことが判明しています。画廊の装飾などに使うと
Yeah,
購入時に説
say
明してい
about
た
them.
ようです。
Say about them. Right? They said there was a lot of like art materials. She was an art restorer, but there was a lot of art materials in her apartment when they found her, right? So Sei purchased cloth and gave it to one of her students Right?
なあ、ヤギ沼。前園聖の部屋から何か持ち去られていたよな。
Oh, yeah. I still remember the gap between the bloodstains in Sei Maizono's apartment.
なるほど。
If that were the case, and the murderer utilized said cloth to decorate the Exile of Paradise statue made from Sei Maizono's body. Maybe they'd taken such a fancy to it that they'd stolen it to use for their serial killings, or maybe it was bought specifically for that purpose. What about your legs? The legs atop the cloth appeared to be frozen stiff with rigor mortis. Apart from that, there was nothing unusual about them. No cuts or anything. Can you verify? The snow? A film of snow blanketed the ground around the body.
この雪は死体発見後に降り始めたそうです。
How convenient.
それでもここで加工したわけではないようだな。
They need to brush away the snow until the ground wasn't drenched in blood.
そうですね。さすがに目立つでしょう。
Agnuma stared at the bunker.
そこの中も違うでしょうが、後で一応調べさせておきましょう。
Okay. The bunker hangar was surrounded by trees. It had just been sitting there for the past decade, its original purpose abandoned following the war.
目撃証言などはどうなってるんだ。
第一発見者は散歩をしていた付近の住人です。
That was only natural, really.
死体の状況については口止めをしてありますが、2件目となると漏れてしまってもおかしくありませんね。
Indeed. Worst case scenario, we could be seeing some copycat crimes thanks to that.
死体を遺棄したと思われるのは昨晩でしょうね。
While the airbase itself was lit at night, its outskirts were probably pitch black, so that added up.
ここに遺棄した理由は何だろうな。
That is the question. That was a riddle whose answer still eluded me. Was it because there wasn't anyone around to see? Or was there something special about this place? Ooh. It is the Chuho airport, right? And Sei had connections to... No, not Chofu. Sei had connections to Chofu, right? She had connections to... So, is it all part of Sei's plan? Yeah, it's one of her disciples carrying it out. I say disciple, I think student's the proper word. It's one of her students carrying it out. Right? Like, she wanted to be the first. She wanted to be the prototype so that by the time they get to the final location, they have it perfected. Something like that, maybe? I mean, the last victim had just been left in her apartment. So what was different this time? Great question. Great question, Reiji. That's why you're the detective. I think that's it. Seems this is about all I could discern at the moment.
身元がわかるのはいつ頃ですか。
どうでしょうな。捜索願いでも出てましたらええんですけど。
That's when I looked over to
こち
Yaginuma.
らでも調べますよ。ただ、年齢と血液型などの資料は
分かってますえ。ほな、急ぎましょうか。
The body was subsequently carted off as per Natsume's instructions.
前と同じように歯型なんかからも調べるようにします。腕がありまへんから指紋も取れまへんからな。
よろしくお願いします。
ほな、うちは戻って調べますさかい。
Natsume left the scene.
妙だとは思いませんか。
Yaginuma turned my way once she was out of the picture.
妙？遺体の状態がか？
ええ。前の件と同じようなのに、まるで違うという感じがしてな
See?
らないんです。
I was right.
確かにな。
Though the two angels were birds of a feather, the process that had gone into setting them up was different. Not only the process, but they were posed differently. I'm certain of that. Such as this one's wound on the head, the way her arms had been amputated, and even being dumped out in the open. The second of those issues could at least be hand-waved as the killer finding a more efficient tool for dismembering bodies. However, I was drawing a complete blank for the other two.
安易に同一犯と決めつけるのは危険ですね。
Oh. Oh, that could be the case. Maybe each one of Sei's students had been, like you said, potentially a group, had been tasked with it. I personally don't think that's the case. I could see it being that way, though. Could see that. I still think it's one. I still think it's Chie. Or Chie's involved in some way. But I do see where you're cooking with this.
そうだな。しかしこうも考えられる。犯人はあくまで天使を作ることが目的だ。
Yes. That had been the case with Shinji Mami and his murders, at least.
被害者候補を絞り込むのは難しそうですね。女性の一人歩きに注意するよう呼びかけるしかありませんか。
That was about the only card we had to play, yeah. Though I prayed that resulted in a lower body count, I also had a sneaking suspicion we wouldn't be so lucky. Yep, didn't work the last time.
被疑者の候補を絞り込む方が先だな。13日に公開された天罰を見た人間。
Yeah, and for such a massive one-day event, like, yeah, there were a lot of people there. That's not gonna narrow it down, bud. Imagine the culprit had to be someone consumed with an obsession sparked by seeing the painting with their own eyes. The last 2 years taught me anything, it was that Shinzo Mami's works were embodiments of madness that could drive others insane at but a single glance. That wasn't something that the black and white photographs of newspapers could possibly convey.
記者も含め絵を見に行った人間を調べてみましょう。
As much as I wanted to grouse about him treating me like another one of his grunts, I could deny I was probably most apt for the job, considering my familiarity with the museum staff and vice versa. Okay, same script. Lo eragia. Alrighty. With that is where I'm gonna have to wrap up this recording session for today. I'm excited. I'm into it. Like I'm already theorizing and shit again. That's the thing. That's what I love about this series in particular. It's like the way the mysteries are presented, I really like. Whether or not I'm, right on the dot or I'm way off, right? It's really fun to just like sit here and think about it. Which, I don't know, maybe that's the thing for most mysteries, and maybe I haven't had enough mysteries. I haven't taken in enough like just like regular mysteries, right? But I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying sitting here and speculating. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm very excited to see how the grand story concludes, of course. But yeah, very excited, very interested to see where it all goes. But like I said, I'm gonna wrap up this recording session here for today. So it's either gonna be a quick transition or a new video. But regardless, I'll see y'all in the next one. Till then, peace.